Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is December the 9th, 2024. And what's on my mind today is how I deal with disappointment and sadness. It seems that the sadness or the disappointment is there to help remind me that I'm a creator. So it causes me to pull on something more than what I knew that I had, because the depression comes from thinking about what we don't have. So I think the disappointment is sometimes a necessary catalyst to look deeper. And something that comes to mind that happened to me when I was in high school is an example here. And a long time before I got to School of Metaphysics, this was a profound experience. And one that has been valuable, and one that I've drawn on many times. I was a sophomore in high school and playing football, and our games were on Friday night, and it was Friday night, and I was due to start or be the starting fullback for the first time. So that the guy that was playing fullback, so he could concentrate more on defense, and that was what I heard anyway. So my brother was playing a junior college football in the next big town from our hometown, and of course I was playing in my hometown, and he couldn't be at the game, and it was a special game. Something that I wanted my brother and my dad to see. Of course, my dad was in Korea at the time, and he couldn't be there. And so my brother, he said the coach wouldn't let him, since they had a game the next night, they didn't want him getting out of town and getting, wanted him to stay focused, I guess. So I can remember standing by the gate, and I hadn't gone into the locker room to get dressed yet. And I was just thinking about this. And I said, well, and here's the sadness, because I was sad or disappointed that my dad couldn't be there. And I said, since my brother couldn't be there either, because this was a special night for me, or it seemed that way anyway. So I just said silently to myself, okay, well, if they can't be here, I'll just let them read about it. And I released that. And of course now, since I've had the education at School of Metaphysics, I know how things turn from disappointment to something amazing. This is how I found out some things that I didn't know I had. And so the next morning, well, to make a long story short, my first time as a starter, as a fullback, I had a good night. And in fact, there was my principal, who was the sports editor for the area football and so forth, he wrote a pretty big article about me the next day. And so the that simple thought, I'll let them read about it and then release it. Meanwhile, my subconscious mind was busy preparing me to do, all during that night, during that game. Everything felt so natural. I was just doing, I was just following along with what was coming from the inside, I guess. Because I did some things that looked amazing to other people. Had a really good night. And so I didn't know any different up until then. It just felt so natural. I didn't think much about it. I didn't think at all about it during the game. I just was going along with, I'm just doing what felt natural. And so I'm about to get off into another, well, I'll just go ahead and finish the story, because the story was a big catalyst to me earning diabetes at the age of about 64, 65. And it was because when I went to school, went to church that weekend, and the school, you know, the girls come up and down the hall and said, "Oh, can I touch you?" I didn't know what to do with that kind of attention. So not knowing what to do with it, I made sure it didn't happen again. I didn't know I was doing that at the time, but what I did was start holding back. I didn't know how to assimilate or even deal with at all. Didn't know how to process people, being the center of attention, where last week I was just one of the people, or one of the guys. Just didn't know how to deal with it. So I started holding back, and that became, now the first time I held back was when I was 9 years old, and the same principal was involved. There was a Kiwanis Club relays in Texarkana, which is the nearest big town, and it was for the region that we all were part of. And I was involved in the short races, and I won each one that I entered, and it just seemed natural to me. Well, the guy that came behind me in second, I got first place, he got second place. Well, the next year, he got first place and I got second. And I didn't think much about it at the time, but looking back on it, and I try not to dwell in the past too much, but there are some things that I can learn from the past, and that's why I go back and look at these things sometimes when it's relevant. And it's relevant to this talk, so I'll put it that way. So with the improved memory at the School of Metaphysics, I was able to go back and put this together in retrospect, that, knowing that diabetes is caused from holding back, or that's the word that I used. It's worded a little bit differently in the book, but holding back is the way it was relating to me. So I had gone back in my memory, and I had identified, well, the first time I was guilty of holding back was when I was 9 years old, into 10 years old. And it was obvious then to me in retrospect that the only reason I wasn't first the next time was because I held back. Because I'd already demonstrated that I had the ability, and just like in the football. Now, the football game, when I was a sophomore, first time playing fullback, and I played fullback the rest of my high school and about this long into college. uh, I always this one experience showed me that I had the ability, if I just let loose and used it. But because I didn't know how to deal with the positive results, I guess I'd had plenty of experience with negative results, but positive results has been been a way for me to hold back. The positive results were hard for me to accept. I've had an easier time accepting the difficulties than accepting the successes. So I'm learning how to do that, and part of giving these talks is a part of me looking. And in the present time, I've gone through a little bit of disappointment and sadness lately. And it doesn't matter what the disappointment or sadness is about. I'm just now seeing that it's there because I need to see the picture clearly, and that's at the top of my my list of wanted things. Always wanting more clarity. So I think the disappointment or sadness is there to act as a stimulus for me to see more of the picture. And so during these times, when I was 9 and when I'm again in sophomore in college, these were two major events in my life, and there's been others, but this one kind of started it all and perpetuated it, so to speak. So I think and when I feel a disappointment or sadness coming in, I say, oh no, I don't like this. But I'm learning to say, well, let it be. Because I already know, and I'm learning, when I know something, now I can learn it in many different ways, that whatever I need to see, I will see. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know, the part of the plan does not indicate that everything's going to be perfectly smooth. And that's why I say sometimes life is fun, but sometimes don't feel like it. So now I'm learning to appreciate some disappointment or even sadness, because I know from experience now, and that's the way we learn everything, it's through experience. I know from experience that when I'm feeling this way, I'm looking closer to catch those things that come by surprises, and most of the good stuff seems to show up as a surprise, like having a good game when I was a sophomore in high school, and I was just being natural. I didn't know that at the time, but I was. I think this is the way anyone can discover more of what they have and see how to use it. And I see things, especially in sports, so because I know how to relate to that. there are people who show up and have some special talents, and when they accept the fact and start working with it, then they seem to be doing a whole lot better. So it's all part of the learning. Disappointment and sadness brings something else to mind that early on at School of Metaphysics, I began to see that even the bad times are good because we're going to learn something from it. So I look at disappointment and sadness differently than I did before, so I guess I'm learning something. So it may sound odd, but when I'm feeling some disappointment or sadness, I feel different. I don't feel. I look at it a little bit differently because I know something's going to come from it, and the good things always show up for me as surprises. And maybe that's a learning tool in itself. The more I can accept who I am, what I am, then maybe the easier I'll be able to get through these experiences. We'll see. But this is the way it goes in Smyrna, Tennessee on December the 9th, 2024. And this is what it is. Thank you for listening.